I don't see the communication of non-duality as a way to help people. I might help an old lady across the road, but I don't give talks on non-duality to help
Okay,
people.
no,
I mean, it's not that I'm hard and callous and cruel. I mean, maybe I am, but I mean, it's not because of that. You seemed genuinely surprised that I didn't say that it's because I wanted to help people.
That's a really good bypassing. That's a really beautiful way to bypass any responsibility and to withhold some sacred humility. Because then he compares it to, but I would help a woman cross the road. So he agrees that he's helping a woman across the road, but he's disagreeing that his spiritual teaching, which people are coming to him for help for, is a useful tool for helping people. I don't see the coherence there. You see what I mean? And this is someone who, and I mean, no disrespect to him as a person. Obviously, he wouldn't give a shit because he keeps repeating that he's not there and there's no one there. So, I think it's necessary to bring light to these things, because these people are in a position of authority. These people are in a position of very high authority in someone's life. People have committed suicide, so I've heard, from these types of teachers sharing from a completely, it's almost conscious ignorance. It's consciously ignorant. What's more important to you? Love and happiness or non-duality? What's more important to you? Compassion and kindness or enlightenment? What's more important to you? Genuine truth and compassion and empathy, or an altered state of mind? When we come to the spiritual path, it's often because we're suffering, and then our suffering seems to transform into more of an existential suffering if it wasn't already an existential suffering. And the suffering that we seem to have becomes more and more sophisticated. And what we typically find is that we start looking for things that aren't important. We start looking for things that don't mean anything. We start looking for things that bypass the most important things, the most important qualities that we should have in this experience. And this is something that I want to remind us of. Enlightenment, non-duality, liberation, it means nothing if we aren't loving, kind, compassionate, friendly. Like, do you see what I'm trying to say? We get so caught up in wanting to change our experience. We get so caught up in wanting to experience something that is so different from our regular experience that we get lost in mistaking what's really important. If the path doesn't end in love, you haven't found the right path. And I say this mostly inspired by a conversation that I heard, or a debate that I heard between Tim Frack and some other guy, I can't remember his name. And this guy is almost representing the non-dual extremism, or neo-advaita, or whatever you want to call it. And it's heavily predicated around the complete opposite of where I'd like to be. And it blows my mind that people are listening to these guys, not necessarily Tim Frack, but the guy that he's talking to. And these almost grumpy, frustrated old men that are like, you want to be like him? You want to be like this guy who doesn't care about helping people, who doesn't believe that who doesn't believe that he turns up for the calls, doesn't want the calls to happen because he has no desire for it. So he just turns up Like he's this fucking Holy Ghost and just like sits on the chair and speaks, but there's no one speaking. So there's no accountability or responsibility for anything he says because they're just arisings. But that may happen. That may arise. Speaking may arise. Conversations may arise, but there's no one talking. It's blasphemy. It's spiritual blasphemy. And you can see in all of these guys, I'm not going to name any names, purely because I can't remember their names. But I've listened to a lot of their calls because I've been very curious. I've been very curious in it because in the same way as Tim Frack, I like to understand, like, how has someone arrived at this belief, you know? Like if someone's like, yeah, I just landed on this planet. How the fuck did you get there? You know what I mean? It's just genuine curiosity, right? You'd want to know how Elon got to Mars if he did get there, right? And after just listening, it's just like, it's crazy. There's people who are listening, and it's supreme egoism, in my opinion, because it's the best place for the ego to hide. Literally, you're completely avoidant of self-reflection because you have no self, and this no self has disappeared. So there's no love in that. There's no unity in that. And you can see it in these conversations. And I've seen the conversations that they've had, because what I always look for is the genuine care and sufficient response that is given by a teacher. And this is something that I always try to do, is genuinely care and listen to what someone is saying and not interrupt them, and give them a fully satisfying response based on the level in which they've asked the question, right? Well, what more can we do than that? Why would we try and answer a question on a higher level than the question was asked? Why would we try to answer the question from a higher point of view than the question was asked? Right? Because ultimately we wouldn't really be on a higher perspective if we don't have the wisdom to recognize the level in which a question is being asked. You see? You can't take someone across the bridge unless you're on the same side of the bridge with them. There's no wisdom in standing the other side and waving over, hey, come over here with my no self. It's trust me, the bridge is fine, just do it. It's like, no, that's not effective. Why turn up to meetings at all if you're not really there for the purpose of the meeting? You see? Doesn't make any sense. It's the sacred place for the ego to hide, because you are avoidant of everything. There's no accountability. There's no compassion, right? We get it. There's more compassion. There's more compassion in a prison, genuinely. And I've spoken to prison wardens and to other prisoners, and there's more compassion in a prison in most cases than I've seen in some of these meetings. Because at least in a prison, they respect whoever they're dealing with, right? I'm talking about specific prisons. There's obviously prisons where there's no respect at all, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. At least there's mutuality in a prison. You see what I mean? At least there's, we are here together. There's none of that in these types of meetings that I've seen. And there's just frustration if someone doesn't understand. And half of it is bypassed by telling them that they're wrong, and that who is the one that wants the blah, 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 who is the one that's seeking the blah, blah, blah. Is that sufficient? I don't think so. I think we've got to stop listening to grumpy old men teaching happiness. Anyway, I hope I shed some light on what, really we should be looking for. We should be looking for friendships. We shouldn't be looking for whatever the fuck they're teaching in these meetings. Because I don't think they even fucking know. Because they would just tell you that they don't know. They're just there, and there's just an appearance and an arising. Anyway, have a beautiful day, guys. Take care.